Let's speak now to Barnard, who's the Beirut bureau chief for the New York Times, joins us now from the Lebanese capital. Barnard, welcome to the programme, welcome to the News Grid. Now, we know that journalists face dangers in war zones, of course, but this issue of being specifically targeted seems to be growing. Tell us more about that.
Yes, well, journalists are targeted because people with power and people who carry guns know that journalists can expose wrongdoing or draw attention to facts that don't fit their politics or their propaganda. Of course, we also face dangers without being specifically targeted. When we cover conflict, we travel to areas that are being bombarded, where roads are destroyed, where there's no health systems, or where we could be detained by government agencies or militants at random.
And female journalists particularly are becoming more targeted as time goes on?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the journalism is becoming more and more a gender equal profession, at least in terms of correspondence out in the field. So maybe the rising numbers just have to do with more women correspondents doing dangerous work.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to play you something now that really demonstrates the challenges that journalists face. This is a clip from Lynn O'Donnell, who's the ex-bureau chief of AP in Kabul. So just have a listen to this.
My name's Lynn O'Donnell. Until a year ago, I was bureau chief in Afghanistan for the Associated Press. Every day we face the possibility of being caught up or targeted in suicide attacks, shootings. I had one colleague, Sadar Ahmed, killed with a shot to the head during a siege. In early 2016, I received a threat signed IS Khorasan, the name Islamic State uses for the region that includes Afghanistan, promising revenge for a story that I had written. Subsequent investigations concluded it more likely than not came from within my bureau. Not unusual, a lot of kidnappings were taking place in Kabul with the collusion of colleagues. So after many years of covering war and conflict, I concluded that the odds were moving against me, and so with a heavy heart I decided to leave Kabul.
So there you have it. That's Lynn O'Donnell, the ex-bureau chief of AP in Kabul, really demonstrating the kind of challenges that journalists face around the world.
Yes, I know, Lynn, and those concerns are certainly common to many journalists out there.
And particularly dangerous when dealing with illicit crime rings. And I'm thinking of Mexico in particular.
Yes, in Mexico, there are cartels that have been really brutal in killing journalists. Most of them are Mexican journalists trying to cover an important story in their own country.
And as we're getting more and more journalists being arrested, many held without any kind of solid charge, what can be done to try and prevent that from happening?
Well, I think number one is to spread awareness that even when people like President Trump and other leaders around the world are adopting the phrase fake news, journalists are out there covering real news. And, we're finding real people visiting places on the ground when we're physically able to, and cross-checking diligently when we're not. And when we are treated like enemies by governments and others, it certainly further endangers us. So I think public awareness is number one, and strengthening legal and human rights protections for journalists is another. And finally, news organizations have to continue improving the way we take care of each other in all ways, both when we face traumatic events and we struggle with the aftermath of that, and when we have to prepare to go into events.
And Barnard, good to get your perspective on this important story. Do appreciate that. That's Barnard, bureau chief of the New York Times in Beirut.
Thank you.